your company currently produces both vintage and tube amps, or vintage inspired tube amps. For example, the Lionheart series has been very successful, and modern sound amps as well, like the GH and the VH high gain heads. And of course, those two categories of products fit to very different needs in terms of tone, in terms of musical taste. How does your approach change when you design a high-tone amp, if compared to when you work on a vintage project?
Yeah. Oh, that's not a very easy answer to give you. I certainly think with let's deal with a vintage amplifier. There's certain basic criteria that people are looking for. In concerning the amplifier design, let's deal with Lionheart. Well, Lionheart was very much a back to basics type of amplifier, in that we wanted to do single-ended. And most amplifiers since 1970, maybe a little earlier, have been push-pull amplifiers. And because in those days people were looking for ever bigger, more powerful amplifiers. We do get confused about watts. People think a 5-watt amplifier is half the volume of a 10-watt amplifier and 1/20th of the volume of a 100-watt amplifier. Not so at all. And it's the characteristic of how the amplifier works that generates the tone. Now, in a vintage amplifier, a single-ended 5-watt amplifier gives you this kind of classic tone. So a Lionheart 5, if again part of it is also the speaker relationship in using a Celestian Heritage speaker, the relationship of the output section to the preamplifier to the speaker is fundamental in that type of tone. But it also has to be borne in mind that the selection of the guitar is also fundamental to that type of tone. So hence a vintage type of guitar goes better with that type of amplifier. When you come into a more modern amplifier, gain is the first thing that is foremost in your mind. And we've gone through a series of amplifiers from the 50 watts of 67 and onwards through to 100 watts and even 200 watt tube amplifiers during the 70s and 80s. During the 70s, gain became more and more important. In the early 70s we produced a clip amplifier, which was a simulated gain done in the preamplifier. When we got into the late 70s, we produced the AOR amplifier, which was cascaded stages of gain. And now in the 90s we produced the VH100R, which is probably the highest gain amplifier we've ever produced. You're looking for, as most guitars of that genre are, you're looking for gain, you're looking for the ability to lean on the strings, for it to sustain, to overdrive. But the one commonality between 1967 single-ended 5 watts and 2009 high gain amplifiers is tone. It's still there. You're still looking for that same kind of tone and the same kind of warmth and drive that you get out of that tube configuration. So whilst they're different, there is a commonality between all aspects of it.
Continuing on this subject, which is the Laney guitar amplifier you're most proud of,
The last one we made.
Yeah. Good.
It's a difficult question to answer, to be honest, because I need to just think about that slightly. I think we must be proud of the Lion Heart because we went back to basics there. And also we set a different benchmark at that point. Certainly in that 5-watt area, it was different. Yes, there are lots of 5-watt amplifiers out there, but at that point when we did it, we wanted to do something different, and at that point it was different. And really, we created a super sounding amplifier, very sweet amplifier. VC15 and the LC15. I mean, LC15 we did in 1996 or 95. Again, I'm proud of that one because the LC15, in those days, nobody was trying to produce 15-watt amplifiers. That was transistor work, that was practice amplifier. And what we really wanted from that amplifier was a thinking man's guitarist practice amplifier. That's where we started as the design concept, because you got that tone. Now, as it happens, the development of transistor amplifiers has moved along quite rapidly, but then again, so has tube amplifiers. We've got a new LC15 amp which answers a lot of questions on tube amplifier. The VC15 was, from our point of view, was great and probably one of our top-selling tube amplifiers ever. A combination of a push-pull 15-watt amplifier, a departure for us going back to a Jensen speaker, which gave again a 1950s kind of sound. Super amplifier, very nice amplifier to play. Which is the most proud? I don't know really. VH is always a lovely amplifier to play. That's, I think, one of the things I'd like to say. I think probably of all our amplifiers, VHs have probably given most guitarists the most smiles, I hope. But I think being a little bit wistful about it, our new tube amplifiers, the little Cub 8 and the Cub 10, super, Cub 10 just coming to the market. Again, little 10-watt amplifier. Sounds really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Really sweet.
Yeah.